Hi everyone, I'm Echoes and I'm a VTuber and I'll be going over episode 11 of Hat Atelier. Apologies for the delay again, but I got the energy now, so I'm going to take my time to react. And this is actually the beginning of the final arc of the season. This which I'll explain as we make more progress in the episode. Yeah. And also it's a very Richeh focused episode in particular. We learn a bit more about her background as well. But yeah. We have 2 more episodes after this, so yeah, we got a very cool ending arc, at least so far. So yeah. Anyway, let's get started. So in the beginning, we kind of get this monologue from a god here, who kind of speaks about how it's mating season for the scale wolves, and then they rub against each other to rub their scales off to prevent harm to their coming offspring, even though they could stay as strong as they are if they chose not to mate with each other. And then she thinks about how her relationship with Kokiers. I thought that I had nothing to learn from her. That outsiders don't belong here, but if she correctly learns how everything works, how is she any different from us? So this model looks interesting because it kind of covers about how she feels that she is kind of letting down her guard per se, just like the Scale Wolves with interactions with Coco, right? But also, she realizes that Coco really isn't that different. The only difference is technically their upbringing, right? But she's could be just as skilled as anyone who has had the correct upbringing, you know? And that's what makes her kind of, she's not really special, but she's essentially a possibility that any person can have to learn magic. Not just people who happen to be in the right place and right time, you know? Or had the correct upbringing, yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so here she's practicing, I believe, a light spell here. And you can see that Q3 is mentioning how she's learned how to draw spells very reliably. And she mentions how there aren't that many spells I'm confident in, so she tends to rely on the same spells. And then he mentions how spells that you can complete consistently and draw on without much effort become her specialty. And then he mentions that the spells that she uses the most are the ones that use more straight lines, which I mentioned before that is her specialty, right? Your straight lines are much more confident than your curves are. First time I met you were drawing straight lines, right? Realizing what spells are your specialty will give you confidence when you need to believe in yourself, so that your ears can hear it. So yeah, and then she's like, I'm gonna draw more straight lines. I said, wait. And then he mentions also you'll master your specialty spells without trying because it's it's easier for her. So it makes sense for her to try what she isn't as good at. Casting skills seem even more impressive to me than before. Now that I know how they work, I appreciate how hard they must have been to design. And then she marvels at how amazing they are. He's improved her compliment vocabulary. And then she talks to her. She's like, oh, do you want to look at the books with me? And she's like, no, I like drawing. I don't like looking. And then you can see that Keeps kind of guide her. Like, studying magic isn't all about training with your hands. You got to also train your eyes. And you can see that Richie's not really happy about his words. And she storms off. And then Rudio pops in because he was asleep on the couch earlier. And he was like, when you close your eyes to the guideposts of learning and shut your ears to the words of your teacher. Let's see. I'm missing something here. You go nowhere fast. So he's saying that essentially that Richeh still needs to continue to learn by listening to her teacher, essentially. Or otherwise she won't be able to progress. And then see Coco apologizes here. And then she gets help Brush Buddy here. It's like, oh, you know where she is? And then she goes, and then Brush Buddy heads into the pot. And then she enters the pot and realizes that she's kind of moved to another place. This is not teleportation magic. It's essentially like another version, I believe, of the window spell, but of only one location only, so that it doesn't need to have that you know how like the window pane spell can like move. This one doesn't need to move, so only is targeted to only one location. And she finds herself in this like sort of like foresty cave, and she's marveling at the crystal ribbons. I really love her position here. It's like, what an avant-garde way to show way of showing your appreciation. She's like, oh, you can have one. Coco takes one. It's like, oh, this is so amazing. And you can see that Coco explains that what she says here is pretty important. Let's see. I love looking at other people's spells because I love imagining that stuff as I look through their spells. Who could have made them? What did they use them for? That sort of thing. And then she asks, why does Richeh not like to read? And she says that if I start looking at books, they'll start telling me to draw what's in there. I'll have to draw things I don't want to draw. And then this is where Kiefer explains Richey's background. So Richeh was apprenticed to another witch before she came here. She uses her stubbornness as a shield to protect herself. Never sure how much to interfere. Unfortunately, people aren't as simple as spells. And this is where Richeh mentions his latest creation called Snugstones here. It is meant as a sleep aid, and it looks kind of like those like really pretty kind of like rocks that have like crystals or something inside. But this one, it's a bit more of a transparent type of rock or stone or something. And it's really nice because you could see that it essentially helps keep you warm on the blankets essentially. And then Kiri's like, there's so much kindness in your spells. This is when Kiefer puts it to his eye, right? You can see that it matches his eye color actually. And I'm gonna sell this and stuff. And he mentions that, oh yeah, 4 for apprentice, 1 is for yourself. And then he gets a letter that mentions the date of her second test at the Serpentback Cave in Cape Ramanon. And then we get a flashback of Richeh learning how to make her crystal ribbons and her brother. Really, I believe. And he mentions her that he really loves it when she makes spells that expresses who she is. But then she watches her brother leave to go somewhere else. So yeah. In a way, like, you could tell that he really cares about her a lot, but he has to like do his own thing for whatever reason. They have a kind of a bit of a tough background, which I think maybe explained, not this time around, maybe explained when we see the brother again. But yeah, there's a good reason why Richeh thinks the way she is, and it is because of her experience under her former master, essentially. And then they go to the cave here, Serpentback Cave, and you see that God was like, I meant to practice as much as I could beforehand, but nope, the Snugstones are too powerful. Everyone feels like they haven't prepared enough, but they gotta try their best. And that will serve the person you'll be next time as well. She eats her breakfast. And then you can see they meet another witch who is taking the test as well with their apprentice. It's like, and you can see Kivira's like, apprentices aren't things, we don't trade them around. And then you can see that the kid here, his name's Euni. My incompetent apprentice has given his master so much trouble, blah, blah, blah. Because he's tried taking this test more than time, but has failed. I'm also sorry, I'll probably never come with the witch because he's not really confident. And then you see that the what do you call it? The test proctor has come. Looks like a giant brush buddy, but it's using a mirror cloak, which when worn projects the illusionary guise of nearby beasts. And then she mentions that Kiwi Balls are apprentices, and then quickly explains the second test, which is what this arc is probably going to conclude on here. Second test, the sincerity of the shield. Keeping your target safe as you is, let's see, I'm missing. As the name suggests, you become like a knight with a shield. Keeping your target safe as you escort them from the entrance to the exit of the Serpentback Cave. Either reaches the cave exit alone, you are out. Of course, you fail if your witness casting spells as well. And then a god asks, and then oh yeah, she mentions I got asks essentially like, what's the risk of being revealed that you're using magic and stuff, and she says there's no risk unless there's the magic coming out. but you'll fail if you witness casting spells. Because essentially you'll be revealed that you'll be exposed that you're human, essentially. And then they see these animals called griffins, which I think are kind of a mix of like a puffin or penguin with like a rabbit, which is kind of interesting. And then they're called myphins, which are a difference between live by the water. And then this is merfins. The Sternback Cave where the test takes place is a magical ruin from a more tumultuous age before the Great Pact. So second test is about using magic to protect them from magic. And they have essentially the whole point of the test is that this route has been this route through Sternback Cave has been existing as a way of reaching the animals' breeding grounds. So we witches must take responsibility for altering their environment. And we guide and protect the young ones making the trip for the first time. With your cloaks on, the merfins will see you as one of their own. In a way, this is harder than drawing spells without humans seeing us. And then they're all given a merfin. And then Richeh gets one's like, oh, there's gotta be a mistake. And then you can see that Kefri, what do you call it? He not really signed her to test. He submitted her application for the test, yes. And then Richeh is not happy about it. And then it's like, oh, you said I could do whatever I want. That's why I came here. Adults all just force you to do what they want. But then Kefri explains here that that's precisely the reason why you take the test. I think what you'll learn here will empower you in the life you want to live. Because he believes that she'll gain important life experiences here. So won't you trust me this one time? And then Richeh is like, I'm going to do what I want on this test. And I was like, that's fine. If it makes me stop being me, I'll never trust what you say again. And they see that the other teacher's kind of being annoying. It's like, oh, playing blah, blah, blah. And then Kefri gets kind of mad at him, and it's like, oh, I gotta go to the Great Hall. So this teacher essentially ditches them, or ditches his own apprentice. Like, you two can handle it, can't you? Pieces out, and I'm like, and then it's like, are you okay, Euni? And then Euni's like, okay, I'll be fine. I'll try my best. And then they get started once the animals start moving, merfins. And then you can see that they're entering the cave. And then the Kefri and other apprentices will be eating their breakfast. And explain about the ruin of the Sternback Cave. And then inside, and he mentions that they'll learn about forbidden spells and then the twisting and turning of the cave, which is pretty cool. Where it gets its name. Now, my little magic shielding knights. How will you traverse this road? So yeah. Overall, really good episode, and next episode we'll learn more about this test and the details of how these apprentices will try to take it. So yeah, overall it's really good. I really enjoyed experiencing this episode, and looking forward to the completion of this arc, since it's a pretty important arc, especially for Richeh in particular, but it is important other ways too, which will make sense next episode. So yeah. Well, hope everyone enjoyed listening to me talk about this, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Take care.